Hello everyone, this is AcidLite here. Now, since this is technically my first video, I would like to give a very short introduction of my Tekken experience and why I wanted to start with this video. Now, if you actually don't want to sit around for that, that is completely fine. Just look at the timestamp and go ahead to where I'm talking about Leffen's review from a newer Tekken player's perspective. So the main reason why I actually wanted to make this video is because I watched Leffen's review and I thought it was pretty amazing, honestly. Just the fact he's a pro player and he was nice enough to play Tekken, give his perspective. You can really see the skills in a kind of established fighting game player jumping into Tekken, even as a new player, considering the fact that he hit Gimbal in 1 week. That's pretty amazing. I know I've heard people say that's an easy thing to do. I don't think so. Yeah, it's easier than it was in season 1, but I do not think it's easy to jump to Gimbal in 1 week. Tekken is a very complex, in-depth game. That's just my opinion. So yeah, I love this review. I'm not really here to challenge a lot of things he said about his personal experience. You can't really tell somebody how to feel. So, I mean, yeah, his experience is his personal experience for him. I'm going to probably give a little bit more insight from the perspective of the new player experience, because he did talk about that too, and that's not just him. Now, I watched TheMainMan's review of Leffen's review, and I watched LoonyLili's review of Leffen's review. And the main reason I also want to talk about this is because when I was watching LoonyLili's review, she made a statement basically saying that she's been playing Tekken for so long that she does not remember what it's like to be a brand new Tekken player. Now, as far as TheMainMan goes, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure because I have a slight cold, so you got to forgive my voice. And like I said, since I'm brand new to content creation, my first few videos might be a little raw. So I apologize for that. I will do my best to get better content in the very near future, though. I am a broke college student, so give me a little time. But I think TheMainMan's been playing Tekken for, I heard him say a couple times about 20 years or something like that. So I don't consider either one of them like new players whatsoever. Whereas I've been playing Tekken for about 1.5 years. I started playing Tekken 4 to 6 weeks before final round 2018. And I took about 4 months off solid just so I can play Overwatch. Some friends got me into Overwatch, which is a very amazing first-person shooter, very creative first-person shooter. I definitely recommend that to anyone if you want to try a different form of first-person shooting. And then I came back to Tekken, and I play Tekken a lot. I do love this game. I drill it. I study it. And I've learned a lot, and I'm pretty excited to start making some content about it. But my main point is, I feel closer to a new player. Like, I still feel, for example, I am more in the new player category than I am in even intermediate at this point. Maybe not from a skill perspective, but from a newer experience of Tekken, I think I do fall in that category. So I think I can give a little insight of some things that Leffen said, and that's really the main basis of this video for you guys. What's up, guys? So I know you guys see Mortal Kombat here, and you're like, okay, this is a Tekken video. What's MK doing on the screen? No, I think Mortal Kombat will help me illustrate 2 points that I would like to make in reference to 2 things that Leffen talked about in this video. The first thing is, when I believe Leffen made a few statements saying that the tutorial system in Tekken is pretty bad and the practice mode is pretty bad. And I honestly have to say I 1000% agree with him. I think the tutorial system in Tekken is horrible because there really isn't one, and the practice mode is not intuitive. You literally need a tutorial system to teach you how to use the practice mode pretty effectively, in my experience. The sample combos are straightforward, looking at the sample moves are straightforward, but it took me a really long time to just figure out how to set the characters on the ground to wake up in certain situations for me to practice Oki setup. So it's not intuitive. And setting up the record function, that's not like rocket science or anything, but it's also not straightforward. So yeah, the practice mode needs to definitely be a little bit more intuitive. But more importantly, the tutorial system, they need something. I know TheMainMan made a statement that Harada said that there's no tutorial system in Tekken because he doesn't feel anybody would use it. Okay, I actually agree with that. I do think that most people would not use the tutorial system in Tekken. Of all my friends that I started playing Tekken with, I truly think that I'm the only one who would have intensely went through the tutorial system, and maybe a couple of my friends would have looked at it, but I don't think they really used it. But that is still not a good excuse. It really isn't. Just something as simple as breaking throws. The throw mechanic in Mortal Kombat, and I'm sorry, in Tekken. I'm looking at Mortal Kombat, so I'm getting confused. Sorry about that. The throw mechanic in Tekken is actually probably the most in-depth throw mechanics I've ever dealt with in a fighting game. And the first time I came across somebody and they were doing a 1+2 break, I didn't know how to break it. You know, of course, I tried to break it with 1, then I tried to break it with 2, then I tried to break it kind of like with Street Fighter settings. I tried to break it with 1 and 3, then I tried to break it with 2 and 4, and I was pissed after that. I was like, what the hell? Like, are you kidding me? And what made it even worse is, because the guy was spamming to throw, and what made it even worse is when I went into practice mode, I could not find anything to clearly teach me how to break throws, and that pissed me off. That's ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. So I don't think that's a good excuse. I think that even something as simple as a power crush, or going in depth of how the power crush mechanics works, like if you do a throw, when somebody does a power crush move, the throw becomes unbreakable. Or going in depth with some examples explaining how most reversals of parries work. You know, they don't usually reverse headbutt, knees, elbows, you know, shins and things like that. I think the game needs a good in-depth tutorial system. Tekken to me is too complex to not have one. And Mortal Kombat, I have this up to show you an example. Like if you look at Mortal Kombat, this tutorial system excuse me, I'm still a little sick. This tutorial system here goes over all the core game mechanics, but to me it actually takes you to the level of intermediate level in terms of giving you examples and breaking down the game mechanics, because the basic tutorial section, the advanced offense section, and the advanced defense section is probably good enough to get you through the basics as a beginner. But then the frame data section, which is very well done, and then the strategy layer section with the positioning and using your resources, how to do good advantage and pressures of your offense, and then building combos properly with hit confirming, combo starters, combo enders. This to me takes you to the step of intermediate level. So this tutorial system is amazing, point blank period. And then they have the added benefit of going over each character and kind of breaking down like basic combos, useful attacks per character, and special moves. I'm not going to click on any of this because it takes time to load in and load out. That's not really the point. But yes, end of story. I completely agree with his point, and I do think it's much harder for new players with that desire to try to learn from a tutorial. And I think Tekken needs to have that. So now, I'm going to go over his next point, which for me, I didn't completely understand. So basically there was a point in this video where he's talking about Kasumi's fly stance, and he did the fly stance and then did Kasumi's throw, and the throw wall splatted. And he's basically like, well, how would I know that in the match? How would I know that? How would my opponent know that as a new player? You know, and then he started going over cheese. Like, you know, some characters have a lot of cheese, and then, you know, there's basically the core strings you have to remember. You know, a lot of core strings like this, like the ducking points and the hit levels, and like, you know, basically what you have to deal with, in my opinion, for every single fighting game. And that's why I didn't really understand, because that's not unique to Tekken. Anytime you play a game, there's going to be characters. Every character you come across, pretty much for the first point, you're not going to know how to fight them. I remember in Mortal Kombat X, the first time I played Demo Sonya, I had no clue that she had two different types of grenades, and I had no clue that she could detonate those grenades at 3 different intervals. And anybody who's played Demo Sonya, that's a huge part of her game plan. And I got worked over. You know, you can say I got cheesed to death, but that's what happens the first time. So I'm gonna pick Scorpion here because he's supposed to play Mortal Kombat. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see that there's 3 different tournament variations for when you play rank and when you go to tournaments. There's Reborn, Surrey Spear, and Burning Spectre. So I'll just pick one, and then we'll go here for Sub-Zero. I like the stage here, the music.
Kotal's Coliseum.
I'm gonna make this part quick because, again, this is not really about Mortal Kombat. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. So in Mortal Kombat 11, there's a system called Crushing Blows, and the way that works is you or your opponent for your particular character has to satisfy a certain amount of requirements, and then you activate your crushing blow. And that crushing blow could be a single attack that does the amount of damage of an entire combo. It can be an attack that does damage over time. It can be a staggering attack that causes you to have such hit stun that the opponent or you can actually start a combo. When you're playing, okay, so every character has a down 2 crushing blow, so that's not specific, but for Scorpion, he has 4 different unique crushing blows from his base variation. As I said before, there are 3 variations. So he has his 4 throw crushing blow. If you activate the proper requirements, that's nice little mind games to mix up with his back crushing, his back throw. He has a 4-3-4 crushing blow. He has a 2-1-2 if you follow requirements crushing blow. I'm not gonna go over all of them, but my point is you need to remember all 4 of his crushing blows and how to activate them, because when they're activated, you need to play the game differently. You need to be aware. Now, from his singular strings that you have to be aware of because they're pretty strong, whether they have, based off the properties they have, you have to worry about his overhead, his 4-3, his back 1, his 4-4, and then you have to worry about from some of his combo strings, his 1-1, because this is a good shimmy, his 2-1-2, which is plus like 7 on block, which is very, very gimmicky. The stagger of his 4-3, because on block this has good pushback. You have to worry about his little gimmicky back 1 strings here, his forward. And this string is super gimmicky because it's a low overhead, which in Mortal Kombat is pretty strong because 50-50s are stronger. So right there by itself, that's about at least 10 things you need to remember. And then you need to learn how to deal with how some of his moves work with special cancels, especially to his teleport. The Scorpion has one of the best teleports in the game. I'm a little rusty, but whatever. And then learning how to deal with his spear. And you have to take into account when he enhances and doesn't enhance. So just for his base variation, you have to remember about 12 things solid with Scorpion. Now, if we go into, because you're not going to play anybody in rank or in tournaments that's just using a base variation. They're going to be using the uniqueness that makes each variation different. And for some characters, variation to variation, I kid you not, is almost like playing a completely different character because the special moves are so strong or so different. So in this variation, you have to worry about his neutral jump, which is a launcher, and that's not the case for pretty much any other character in the game. Then you have to worry about his stance, which his stance has a bunch of little sneaky little mix-ups. That little mid right there actually is like plus a zillion on hit. And then you have to worry about the fact that he has 2 variations of that, which comes out as an overhead and low and 2 shadows, and you don't know which is which, so you have to look for clues to try to figure that out. So, okay, I'm pretty much done here. Like I said, this is not about Mortal Kombat, but for that alone, for one variation of Scorpion, that's about 15 things you need to remember. And then you have 2 other variations of them. And it's, well, I think Mortal Kombat 11 has like 28 characters or something like that. So that's about 28 characters, about 15 to 20 things you got to remember for all the variations, maybe even 25 for some characters. So I would say at least per character, you would have to remember core 15 things. And believe it or not, that's kind of the same amount of number you need to remember in Tekken for beginner ranks. I know it doesn't feel like that because when I first started playing Tekken, you see this massive move list, right? And you're looking like, wow, I gotta learn all of these things. That's insane. What people don't realize is that, especially in teal, blue, green ranks, and yellow ranks, the beginner ranks, people are only using 15 like singular moves or strings, and they're just mixing them up. They rarely, if ever, 95% of people you play against, that's the amount of moves they're using. 15. I don't even think I would go past that number. Most I probably might be using less than that. And sure, Tekken has more characters, and that part I agree. That could be a little bit overwhelming. And Tekken has, the game mechanics have more depth to them, so that part I agree. But I do think for the most part, it is much, much more manageable than I feel a lot of people when they start feel. Because I felt the exact same way, and it wasn't until probably about 3 to 4 weeks into playing Tekken, into playing ranked, that I realized that I'm dealing with probably only 20 to 40% of the cast, because the most popular characters, I'm kind of recycling against them, and within that group of characters, they're using kind of the same exact moves, the same exact strings. And yes, it is different from player to player how they actually implement that, but it's not like it wasn't as bad as I thought. I didn't have to remember hundreds of moves for 45 characters. So it's so yeah. I guess that's just my point I'm trying to make. For the most part, even playing Mortal Kombat, it took me probably about 6 weeks to get to the point where I had a good idea how to handle most cheese for most popular characters for their most popular strengths and setups. It did not happen in 1 week. It didn't happen in 2 weeks. It didn't happen in a month. So I don't think Tekken is any that much different or unique in that area. I think that's just fighting game specific. For my second point. Anyway, I hope I made a good point there, guys. So I'm going to talk about two more things, and then I want to wrap this video up. The next thing I'm going to talk about is it is kind of building off of what we just talked about, what I just talked about from Mortal Kombat, and it's in reference to something else Leffen said. He made a statement. It was something along the lines of saying, "Would I recommend Tekken for $50 for someone to start off new and be miserable for 2 months? No, I wouldn't." And that to me is extremely powerful statement because to somebody brand new hearing that could scare them away from Tekken. Now, given a little bit of context to that, I don't think that's what he was trying to do. That again, I think his personal opinion just kind of shined out with that statement from his experience, because before that he made other statements. He said something along the lines of, "If Tekken looks cool to you, don't listen to what I have to say. Just play Tekken." He says something along the lines of, "Tekken is this is I don't like learning this large move list. I don't like learning the frames of this move list. But is there more? Am I saying there's more? There's only one way to play Tekken? Of course not." So he's basically saying this is his experience, and he's trying to make that clear. And I think that's pretty awesome of him to do that, because my experience of playing Tekken when I first started is a night and day experience from his experience, from what I can tell. Because my first 3 to 4 weeks of playing Tekken was amazing. And I think I'm a little bit shocked about how much he didn't like it, but at the same time, I completely understand, because I have a friend, because I started with a group of friends, and I have a friend who did not. He played with me for about 3 weeks, and he stopped playing Tekken because he started playing rank. And it was kind of funny because I noticed his little label had changed from beginner to like second or third dan. And I was like, "Hey, what's that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've been playing rank." And not too long after that, he stopped playing Tekken. And his reason was, the move list is so big, it takes too long to learn the move list. I'm losing to people that are not better than me. That was his reasons, which to me sounds extremely similar to Leffen's experience. Like, it takes a long time to get to the point where you can get to the mind games. As I said before, that's not 100% true. Most of the time, you're going to deal with people that are using about 15 core moves and strings. So, but it is a large move list. You have character specialists, and it's a lot of characters. But anyway, back to my experience. Like, when I started playing Tekken, my first 3 weeks were amazing. I played Tekken 3 back when I was a kid. I played King, Paul, and Lei. I don't truly count that for Tekken experience because I was like 10, 11 years old. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just pressing buttons. But when I started playing Tekken 7, I chose King and Paul because that's from my memory of who I used to play. And for me, the fun part of it, especially with King, was the exploration aspect of the game. So his move list is massive, true, but I love the fact that I went into this move list. I picked up I would look through this, sample moves, and I would pick maybe 15 moves that look really fun, and usually in that it was about three different throws, because I think I started with his regular throws, before I moved to his chain throws and things like that. And I had a ton of fun. My first 2 weeks, I was just playing my friends. So again, that could be a different experience. But most people who play Tekken, I don't think they're looking to become an elite Tekken player. They're probably not even looking to pick up Tekken and just rise up through the ranks. I think that's something that comes later, like a legit amount later. Because a lot of the experiences he experienced, I definitely felt that way a lot. But I didn't get there until maybe 4 to 6 weeks after my startup point of playing Tekken. It wasn't an immediate process. Just playing for casual fun. A lot of people do that. A lot of people just play player matches and they stick to that. I'm very competitive. At some point, I wasn't shocked that I ended up moving into rank. The last 6 to 8 months, I actually have started going to my locals more. I'm trying to become much more involved with the scene. I went to a couple majors this year outside of just local tournaments. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I want to learn. I want to become a very good player, as good as I can be. So, and it doesn't shock me. I went down that road, but the first 4 weeks was pretty much pure fun. And then I would say that after my friend started playing rank, I started playing rank. I was like, okay, cause I didn't want him to get ahead of me. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna start playing rank too. So I ranked King and Paul up to probably, I want to say, mentor or grandmaster before the game became very difficult for me. And it was an awesome experience. Once again, no stress, complete fun. Now, granted, I was winning most of my matches, but I was losing some too. I was losing to cheese. I was losing to things I didn't understand. But the fun part for me with King was learning a group of moves, trying to apply them in a match. I don't feel like I was mashing. I was just trying to apply them effectively in a match, and then going and learning another additional 3 to 4 moves and adding that to my roster. That was beyond exciting for me. And with Paul, it was a completely different experience, which is something I love about Tekken, because the character depth in terms of the uniqueness of each character is pretty big. With Paul, I just love death fisting people. I'm not even going to lie. I can't tell you the amount of times I was about to lose a match and I death fisted him twice, and I jumped out of my seat like, what? And I was excited about that. It was a different, Paul was a different type of character than King. His combat factor was really exciting. Even though you get that with King's chain throws, I wasn't really there yet. So it was exciting for me. And then once I hit Grandmaster, I hit like a brick wall. And I was basically bouncing between Grandmaster and I want to say Fighter. So it was about 3 ranks. I was bouncing back and forth. That's when I started watching. That's when I watched. That's kind of how I know when I started playing Tekken, because I started looking for tournaments and looking online. I watched Final Round and things like that. So I started trying to learn just watching like these pro tournaments, and then I learned, and I did that for maybe like 4 to 6 weeks, and then I learned that I basically learned that to start looking on YouTube to learn tutorials and things like that. But the process, it was stressful. Yes, I'm not gonna lie. Rank became stressful, but it was insanely fun. And again, my experience is different than his, which may be different than somebody else's. One thing I passionately loved about Tekken was every time I learned how to effectively deal with a new move or a new situation, and then somebody did it, it felt extremely rewarding. Especially if somebody kept doing it, because then it felt like, okay, I've taken the time to study and learn. You haven't. You're stuck using the same type of moves, and I'm progressing past you because I'm actually trying to get out of that bubble. Okay. And I don't know if that's an elitist mentality to have, but I felt it made me feel good. If I look back at my experience with Tekken in the last year, I remember in season 1, I made a good amount of friends, and Tekken can have a rough community. I've never received so much like hate mail from a fighting game, because a lot of people take a lot of pride in this game. So I can completely understand when he was saying people were going to get butthurt. A lot of people get mad in Tekken. They don't like to tell you stuff. It's not like I was emailing anybody, but I started playing Tekken with a lot of different characters. I jumped around, and if I won with the character that somebody thought was not a quality character, like when I won with Jin, I didn't deal with too much drama, or Kazuya. But when I won with King versus when I won with Josie versus when I went with Oscar, I got hate mail. I got hate mail, man. So that was an interesting experience. It really, really was. But my in season 1, I did make some good friends, because there are good people in this community. Definitely don't let that turn you off. And I want to say half of my friends were in orange ranks in season 1, and now I am doing much better than almost all of my friends I made in season 1 that were in orange ranks. And not to say they haven't improved, they have, but there's a drastic difference in how much I've improved compared to them. And I think a lot of that's because I've been studying the game. I've been studying it almost as if I'm getting my PhD in it. And that's not saying I'm an expert, because I am not. That's not saying I'm pro level, because I am not. But I can see a huge, massive difference between now and then. And the drastic change has been pretty big. And that's a good feeling. And I've never experienced that with any other fighting game, because most fighting games I play, I get the game mechanics down. Like I was showing you in Mortal Kombat, with the same amount of studying I put into Tekken, I had pretty much most of the game mechanics down for Mortal Kombat well within 4 months, easy. easy. And then at that point, it's just all mind games. And that's a very fun aspect of the fighting games too. The mind games are a lot of fun, but Tekken gives you more than that, in my opinion. It gives you a lot more than that. One thing I would say that I also love about Tekken is the creativity you can do with Tekken. Watching Sonic Fox win and play is amazing. I love watching Sonic Fox play Mortal Kombat. I love watching Punk play, but the feeling I get when I watch maybe P-Ling use Lei or iMusician use Yoshimizu is second to none. And part of that is the depth of the move list does play a role, but a lot of that is the fact that he has a good amount of moves that are very fluently put together, and he's figured out how to put them together fluently, because it's not natural. You can't just pick up Yoshimizu and all of a sudden be fluent. It's not that easy. You can pick him up and do flowcharts, but this is pro level play where iMusician is. Pro players will pick you apart if you just do that. But when you watch iMusician play, it is a pure thing of beauty. It really is. And that's very hard to get in other fighting games, in my opinion. Not saying you can't do it, but I am saying that I usually see it more in Tekken. But again, that's just my experience. I could just be biased there. Could be just as simple that I love Tekken, and it's just shining through. But yeah, the other thing I would talk about is he made a statement, and I don't exactly remember his words here, but it made me feel like he was saying the depth of Tekken is the move list, and that doesn't really mean it's complex or has depth. And in my experience, I'm going to say Tekken has a ton of skill to it, and Tekken is probably 75% skill, 25% like memorization of move lists and frames and stuff like that. That is important. It is, but the movement in Tekken is so hard to get down. I cannot stress that enough. The skill it takes to Korean backdash. I've been practicing Korean backdash probably for about 9 to 10 months now. And I honestly just got to the point where I can do 3 in a row effectively, probably 70% of the time. Honestly, I'm not even 100% of the time, 70% of the time. And I just got to the point where I'm breaking throws, and it's not even 100% of the time either. It's to the point where it's probably 50 to 60% of the time. But I love the fact that Tekken gives you the option to apply skill and not guessing. When I play Mortal Kombat, somebody does a throw, that's a guess right there. And I know in Street Fighter it's just light punch, light kick, so I'm not saying every game, but I love the fact that when they reach with the left arm versus when they reach with the right arm versus when they reach with both arms, 90% of the time you can break that throw based on reaction skill, input buffering skill, learning how to effectively sidestep, to set up counter hit baiting, or whiff punishment. These are the things that will give you if you're very good at these fundamentals, will allow you to beat players or characters that you don't know how those characters play, or because you're not going to know how to fight every character you play in Tekken, despite even if they're using 15 to 20 or 30 moves or whatever for a very long time, because there's so many characters in Tekken. Genghis doesn't even have a huge move list, but you might not see Genghis in rank or even at a local tournament for 4, 5, 6 months. So the next time you could have labbed him, and when you see him again, you don't remember anything. That's very common in Tekken. So now you have to defend, and now you have to depend on your skills and fundamentals to win, and what little memory you do remember, because you usually remember something for each character, and that builds over time. So again, that's just my opinion. I think Tekken is very, very much skill based. But when I first started playing Tekken, I did feel 100% that it was more about the amount of moves, like memorizing the amount of moves, learning the amount of moves that your opponent is doing. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, know the frame data of these moves and the properties of those moves. And that's what it felt like in the beginning. It really did. I didn't change that thinking process until probably 7 months in of playing Tekken. It takes time, because that part feels overwhelming as a newcomer at first when you're trying to just play and get good. I'm not disagreeing with some of the things he said. Like I said, I had a very similar experience, probably just like month 2, month 3. I just enjoyed it more. Because it really sounds like he didn't enjoy playing Tekken. Honestly, like, listen to the way he talked in his video. I love the fact that he did the video. I love the fact that it sounded like he was very open-minded when he started, and open-minded throughout the entire process. And he sounded like he gave his honest opinion. And it sounded like, and this is the most important part to me, he wasn't trying to deter people from playing Tekken. It was just his experience. And I think that's pretty great. But it also sounded like he didn't have that much fun. He really did. Whereas in my experience, I had a lot of fun. And with the bulk of my friends we started with, we still play Tekken. We love it a lot. So I think it's a pretty great game, and I definitely would recommend it to everybody. But that's just my 2 cents as a new player playing Tekken, or a newer player. Like I said, I've been playing for about a year and a half strong. But that's just my 2 cents, and I hope maybe somebody, I've inspired you to give the game a shot. If after watching this video you didn't want to do it, or if you were just on the fence about it anyway, definitely give it a shot. Be open-minded. If it's a money thing, then yeah, wait for it to go on sale. It'll go on sale at some point. But I do think it's an amazing game, and I think that most people from a casual perspective would love the game. Anyway, that's my video. This is AcidLite. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, please. And again, brand new to content creation, guys. So just give me some time to try to get some better quality content out there for you. I am definitely saving up for a better computer and better software and things of that nature. Right now, I'm broke college student, so kind of just working on what I got. All right, take care.